People always say that no one can steal your identity forever. They're wrong. My own twin brother stole my name, my home, my future, and almost convinced the world that I never existed. It all started on a rainy Friday night. My twin brother, Ethan, and I were driving home after celebrating our 28th birthday. We looked identical, but that was where the similarities ended. I worked as an architect and had spent years building a successful career. I was engaged to the love of my life, Sophie, and we were only 2 months away from our wedding. Ethan, on the other hand, had spent most of his adult life drowning in debt. He bounced from one failed job to another and blamed everyone else for his problems. That night, he insisted on driving. The rain was getting heavier, and I told him to slow down. Instead, he laughed and pushed the gas pedal even harder. Then, a truck ran a red light. The impact was so violent that everything went black. When I finally opened my eyes, I couldn't move. Every bone in my body felt broken. I tried to speak, but no words came out. Through the blurry lights, I saw doctors and nurses rushing around us. Then I heard someone ask, "Which one is Daniel?" Before I could answer, I watched Ethan slowly raise his hand. That single lie destroyed the next 3 years of my life. When I woke up again, it wasn't in the same hospital. I had been transferred to a long-term rehabilitation center 2 states away because my injuries were so severe that doctors believed I wouldn't survive. For weeks, I couldn't speak. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even remember my own phone number. The only thing I never forgot was my name, Daniel. Every time a nurse asked who I was, I whispered it. But they always smiled politely. "No, sweetheart," one of them said. "Your name is Ethan." I tried to tell them they had it backwards. No one believed me. My medical records had already been changed. My wristband said Ethan Carter. Every document in the hospital said the same thing. Meanwhile, the real Ethan was living as Daniel. 3 months later, I finally regained enough strength to use a phone. The first person I called was Sophie. She answered after the second ring. My heart almost stopped. "Sophie, it's me, Daniel." There was a long silence. Then she sighed. "Ethan, please stop." I froze. "What?" "Daniel already told me what happened. He said your brain injury made you confused. He begged me not to abandon you." My hands started shaking. "I am Daniel." "No," she whispered. "My fiancé is sitting right next to me." The call ended. I stared at the phone for what felt like hours. In a single conversation, I realized my brother hadn't just stolen my name. He had stolen my entire life. And somehow, everyone believed him. I knew no one would believe me without proof. So I stopped arguing. I focused on one thing: getting my life back. After nearly a year of physical therapy, I could finally walk again. The first place I went was my parents' house. My mother opened the door. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she burst into tears and hugged me. "I've missed you so much, Ethan." My heart sank. Even my own mother believed I was the wrong son. I tried to explain everything. The man living as Daniel isn't Daniel. He's Ethan. She slowly stepped back. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "Your brother has already been through enough." Before I could say another word, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Ethan stepped out, wearing my watch, driving my car, even wearing the jacket Sophie had bought me for my birthday. He smiled as if nothing had happened. Then he wrapped an arm around Sophie. "See," he said calmly. "I told you he'd come back eventually." He looked me straight in the eyes, then leaned closer so no one else could hear. "You should have died that night." My blood ran cold. At that moment, I stopped trying to convince people with words. If I wanted my life back, I'd have to prove it with something my brother could never fake. The next morning, I hired a lawyer. He listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "If you're telling the truth," he said, "there's only one way to prove it. DNA." My brother could copy my signature. He could steal my clothes, my job, and even my fiancé. But he could never steal my DNA. A week later, my lawyer filed a petition in court requesting a DNA test. Ethan laughed when he received the notice. "This is ridiculous," he told everyone. "He's just a confused man who needs help." Sophie stood beside him. My parents stood beside him. Even our closest friends defended him. I stood completely alone. The day of the hearing finally arrived. The courtroom was silent as the judge ordered both of us to provide DNA samples. For the first time since the accident, I saw fear in Ethan's eyes. Not anger. Not confidence. Fear. He knew the truth was finally catching up to him. 2 weeks later, the results arrived in a sealed envelope. The judge opened the file and looked at us both. Then he slowly removed his glasses. "The DNA results," he said quietly, "change everything." The entire courtroom held its breath. No one was prepared for what came next. The judge looked directly at Ethan. "Your DNA does not match the medical records created after the accident." The courtroom fell silent. Then he turned to me. "The evidence confirms that you are Daniel Carter." For a few seconds, no one moved. Sophie covered her mouth in shock. My mother burst into tears. My father slowly sat down, unable to process what he had just heard. Ethan stood there, completely frozen. His perfect lie had finally collapsed. But the DNA wasn't the only evidence. My lawyer presented security footage from the hospital. It showed Ethan raising his hand when a nurse asked, "Which one is Daniel?" Then came phone records, insurance documents, bank transfers, and my forged signature on dozens of legal papers. Everything pointed to one person, Ethan. The judge ordered the case to be sent for criminal prosecution. He was arrested before he could leave the courthouse. As officers placed him in handcuffs, he looked at me with hatred. "You took everything from me," he said. I shook my head. "No. You stole everything from yourself the moment you chose a lie over your own brother." Months later, my identity was officially restored. My bank accounts, my home, and my career were finally returned to me. Sophie tried to apologize after learning the truth. She said she had believed the man everyone else believed. I didn't blame her. But I couldn't go back to the life we had planned. Some things can be returned. Trust isn't one of them. The hardest part wasn't losing 3 years of my life. It was realizing that the only person who could have saved me was the one who stole everything from me. Today, people ask if I hate my brother. I don't. Hate would mean he's still controlling my life. Instead, I let the truth do what I never could. It took away every lie he built and gave me the one thing no one can steal twice, my identity. So, what would you have done if you were in my place? Would you fight to get your life back? Or would you walk away and start over? Tell me honestly in the comments. And if you enjoy emotional Reddit revenge stories with shocking twists, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories every week.